everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my April wrap-up. So I read a total of 9 books in the month of April, and let's be proud of me for a second, only one of them was a reread. Are we proud? Normally at least half of the books that I read are rereads, so I'm quite proud of myself that I only managed to reread 1 book last month. And honestly, it wasn't even a conscious decision. I was just reading a lot of new books, and that makes me feel really good. So let's just get into the books that I read. So the first book I read, I listened to on audiobook, and it is The Rose Society by Marie Lu. I'm gonna be real honest with you guys, I don't really remember anything about this book, and I also don't really know how to describe the series. It's something about people powers that they developed after this like disease, and they're called the Young Elites. That's what the series is about. I think that's like, I don't know. This is the second book in the trilogy, and honestly, even as I was writing this review, like shortly after reading the book, I still didn't remember anything that happened in it. It's been a month now since I read this. I have really no recollections of it. It did not stick with me, and I just don't think the series is for me. I do love Marie Lu. I love the Legend trilogy and the Warcross duology. I don't know, something about this series is just not for me. I do own all the books back there, but I don't think I'm going to continue with the last one, and I think I'm actually going to unhaul this series because like I said, I don't remember anything about it. I am not attached to any of the characters or any plot points or anything. I don't care what happens in the last book, which is honestly quite devastating for me because like I said, I do love Marie Lu, but it is what it is. So this one was just not for me. It was not a great way to start off April, but don't worry, I read a lot of great books in the rest of the month, so let's talk about those instead. When I tell you that April feels like one of the longest months ever, I'm not kidding, because I forgot that I read this book this month. Like, it felt like I read this months ago, but I guess I read it in April. So After Age Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the third and final book in the Brown sister trilogy, and that just made me really sad knowing that there's no more books in this world with these characters. Oh no. But I don't think it's a surprise or shock to anyone that I absolutely adored this book. I'm a huge fan of Talia Hibbert and this entire trilogy. So if you don't know, this trilogy follows 3 sisters. We have Chloe, Dani, and Eve. So the first one follows Chloe. She has fibromyalgia, I believe, and she has a near-death experience, so she decides to make a get a life list. Dani Brown is about Dani, who is a very career-driven person. She's not really looking for love. She just kind of wants a fuck buddy, and so she like asks the universe for the perfect fuck buddy, and she's presented with Zaf. And then this one follows our main character Eve, and she kind of flip-flops between jobs all of the time. She like gets really passionate about something for a while, and then she either fails at it or she just gets bored of it, so she moves on, and her parents are tired of it, so they decide to cut her off. They tell her, you have a year to find a place to live, get a good job. So she kind of just runs away, but then she stumbles upon this bed and breakfast where she meets Jacob. He is autistic. I don't know how to describe this book. I have never described this book before, I don't think. But basically, she goes there for like an impromptu interview. She ends up running over Jacob with her car, and he ends up breaking his arm. So he's kind of stuck and has to hire her for the chef position because that's the job that he was hiring for. And so he's kind of stuck with her, and she even ends up staying at the bed and breakfast because she doesn't have a place to live. That was an awful description. I'm so sorry. Trust me, this book is a lot better than the description I just gave it. But as with Talia Hibbert's other books in this series, I love the characters so much, and I was able to find things to relate to in the characters even if I can't relate to their specific situation. Both our main characters are dealing with feelings of not being enough or being too much for people, being too much to handle because they are autistic. And while I'm not autistic, I do have anxiety, and I do feel like I am simultaneously not enough for people but also too much to handle. So I definitely related to those feelings a lot, and I really enjoyed seeing that. And I did love the setting of the bed and breakfast. That was really fun, and of course I loved the romance. It was really adorable. I loved the way that it played out. But I do have to say, I think this is my least favorite out of the 3 books, and that's literally just by default because I love the other 2 like so much that I don't know if there was any way for this one to live up to it. I still love it. It's just like this much less, like this much less. So I think just by default it's my least favorite, but I still really love it, and I can't wait to reread it one day. It was fantastic. I have a whole bunch of tabs in here, so obviously I loved it. There are some trigger warnings at the front. Talia Hibbert with these books always has some content warnings at the beginning, so if you want to know before going into this book, before deciding to purchase it, it says this book mentions childhood neglect and anti-autistic ableism. If these topics are sensitive for you, please read with care and feel safe in the knowledge that joy triumphs in the end. And then she also just mentioned that she elected to ignore the existence of COVID in this book book, which I highly appreciate. I do not want to read any books that talk about COVID, please and thank you. I really loved this book. I highly recommend this entire trilogy. It is absolutely fantastic, and I am so sad that it's over and I don't get to read about the Brown sisters anymore. I'm devastated. The next book I read was What I Like About You by Marissa Cantor. This is a book that my author mentor Melissa C recommended that I read as a comp title for my book Reasons Why Not To. And yes, I agree, it is a very good comp and I'm very excited about it. So this book follows our main character Hallie, and she has this whole like online persona under a different name. She has this best friend named Nash online, but he doesn't know her real name. He doesn't know anything about her like real life. But she ends up moving in with her grandpa because her parents are like traveling because they're directors. So they're traveling to film this like documentary or something. So she's living with her grandpa, and it just so happens that she's in the same place as Nash and she ends up going to the same school as Nash, but he has no idea who she is. So she ends up becoming friends with Nash as Hallie, while he is still like friends and like has a crush on her persona Kels. So he doesn't know who she is, but things get a bit complicated. This is again a really bad description. My description game is not good today. I'm so sorry. Not like it's ever good, but it's really bad today. Anyway, she has this whole online persona with a book blog, and things get awkward because feelings get involved and she doesn't know how to tell him that she's who she is. And I love tropes like this. It's one of my favorites. It's in Eliza and Her Monsters. It's in Alex Approximately. I'm just obsessed with this kind of trope. And I honestly think that Marissa Cantor did such a beautiful job with this entire book. Like, I think she handled everything beautifully. I just think every aspect of this book was good. I also read this book in a sitting. I think I only stopped to eat dinner, but that was it. Like, besides that, I was rooted in my spot on the couch just reading this book, and it wasn't even intentional. Like, sometimes I go into a book and I know that I'm just gonna sit there and read it all day and that's all I'm gonna do. That was not the case with this one. I just sat down to read it and I just never got up. It just captivated me from the very beginning. I needed to know what was gonna happen. I was really invested in the characters and the romance and just the plot in general. I also really loved the inclusion of book blogging in this book, and BookCon is also in this book, which was amazing. Like, they go to BookCon, which I'm just like a huge fan of, and I just think that Marissa Cantor did it so well. And even though I'm a booktuber and not a book blogger, I still was able to relate to aspects of it, which I really enjoyed. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed seeing Hallie's journey with Nash and with book blogging in general, just with her whole life. It was just really fun. It was such a good book and I highly recommend that you guys read it as well. So the next book I'm gonna talk about really quickly because it's not a published book yet. So it's Now Recording by my friend Barbara Acosta. So she's one of my fellow AMM mentees. She is in a Discord chat with me and I am obsessed with her, and I was lucky enough to be able to read her book, and oh guys, it was so good. Like, you are not ready for this book, okay? It is fantastic. The banter, the chemistry, the romance, like everything about it, family, oh, it was perfect. It's about a hot firefighter, so we're here for it. This was another one that I read in a sitting. Like, I just sat at my computer and I just read the entire thing from start to finish. And I only stopped once because my mom made me go to the store with her, and I didn't want to go, but she made me go. And so I was forced to stop. Like, that's the only reason why I stopped reading it, was because she forced me to stop reading it. Regardless, I love this book. You guys are not ready for it. I cannot wait for her to get an agent and a book deal so you guys can read it as well. Oh, it was such a good book. I'm obsessed with it. Like, I was just consistently impressed with how good it was. But I'm not going to talk about it anymore because you guys can't even read it, and I feel bad talking about it when you guys can't read it. But oh, it was so good. So make sure to keep your eyes out. I'm gonna link her Twitter down below so you guys can go follow her. But oh my god, it was excellent. So the next book was my one reread of the month, and it was The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. I was just really in the mood to read this book, and I also had plans to read the sequel and do a reading vlog for it, but I don't know if I'm doing that anymore because I stopped reading the sequel. Regardless, I picked this book up. It's a reread. It's a childhood favorite of mine. I have a whole reading vlog for it for my Capturing Classics series that I uploaded last year if you want to kind of see my feelings about it, because they haven't really changed. The next book I read was Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. So this is an adult romance that everyone's been talking about recently, so naturally I had to pick it up. I saw it at Walmart for 40% off and I was like, yes, give me please. So this, like I said, is an adult romance. We're following our main character, Grace Porter. She goes on a little girls trip to Vegas and she ends up getting drunk and marrying this girl that she just met, and that spontaneous moment of getting married in Vegas kind of upends her whole life plans. So she's dealing with feelings of burnout from going to school and pursuing this one thing her entire life, and her parents' expectations situations, and she just decides, I'm gonna go move in with my wife that I just met and see if we can make it work. So overall, I really enjoyed the romance in this book. It is a female-female relationship between our main character Grace and her wife Yuki. It was really, really adorable. I think it was really interesting how they were like already married and then they had to like get to know each other. I really enjoyed seeing that. I don't know if I've ever actually read a story like that before. And I actually really enjoyed their chemistry as well, and their back and forth banter. I think it worked really well. I do think that the romance was a little quick in terms of their like feelings, but it didn't bother me like really at all. And in this kind of situation where like they are already married, so there is this kind of like, I guess, pressure to make it work, I suppose. I think in terms of the situation, I do think that it worked and it doesn't upset me at all. Like I actually quite enjoyed this romance, like I said. So it being a little fast-paced did not bother me at all. Plus it's a short book, so like it really doesn't bother me. I think if anything, it just kind of added to the charm of the story. So I did like the writing style of this book. It's a very like, at moments it's very like lyrical, and there's like a lot of just, it's a very nice writing style, but I think personally while I was reading it, I was not in the headspace to be reading beautiful writing like that because I was really tired. A lot of the times when I was reading this book, I've had a really hard time recently prioritizing writing during the day, so I've been reading a lot at nighttime, and I was just really tired every time I picked up this book. So I can definitely see and objectively know that the writing in this book is beautiful, but I think it was just too much for my head at times, and so I don't think I fully appreciated it while I was reading. So I am interested to reread this one day and hopefully appreciate the writing style a bit more, but I do know that it's beautiful. My head just wasn't having it. But overall, I did really enjoy this book. I had a good time reading it and I do recommend it. Also, this cover. Come on, this cover is beautiful. So the next book I read is Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. This book follows our main character Felix. He is black, queer, and transgender, and he's starting to think that he's just one marginalization too much. He's obsessed with love, but he's never been in love. His last name is also Love, and he knows the irony of that. But one day someone in his school posts pictures of him in their school's gallery of him pre-transition, and also posts his dead name, and obviously that's not alright. So Felix naturally gets very upset and very mad, and he decides to retaliate on the person that he thinks it is. I can't talk about how I felt about this book because I read it for a reading vlog that is not out yet, but it will be out hopefully next week, so keep your eyes peeled for that to know how I felt about this book. The next book I read I also don't want to talk about too much because I do have a full reading vlog out for it, but it is Kate in Waiting by Becky Albertalli. This is her newest release. Just know that I'm obsessed with it, and go watch my reading vlog if you want to know all the things. I'll link it up above in the cards for you. But this book follows our main character Kate and her best friend Anderson, and they've always had communal crushes. They always crush on the same boys, and it's all fun and games until their long distance crush transfers to their school, and they find out that communal crushes are not as much fun when real feelings are involved, and it causes all this like tension, and oh my god, it's so good. So if you have not checked out this book yet, I highly recommend it, especially if you love other Becky Albertalli books. Like this one was so good. Like I read this book in a day. There were a lot of one-day reads in April, and I'm not mad about it. Obviously, I'm in love with this book. I am very happy about it. So check out my vlog if you have not yet already, if you want to know more about my feelings on it. And the last book that I read, I again cannot talk about that much, but it is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabat Tahir. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I am aware that I'm pretty sure I made a video at some point not that long ago where I said I would never read this book. I'm aware of that, but you will know why I read it very, very soon. This book was for the same reading vlog as Felix Ever After, so you will see that probably next week. I honestly don't even know how to describe this book, but I'm sure you know what it's about. There's something about an empire and our main character having to like go undercover. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure you know what this book is about. It's everywhere all the time. So I did read that. Can't talk about what I thought about it, but you will find out very, very soon. But yeah, those are all of the books that I read in the month of April. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a huge thumbs up. Comment down below what you guys read in the month of April because I'd really love to know. Subscribe if you've not yet already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!